A number of my previous questions have been asked, so I've got one that may be a little unfair for you, but I want to ask it anyway, just because it's something that I'm curious about as we get all these posture hearings. But a lot of talk in both written and oral testimony about the threat of China. We all know that. That's not just what we're hearing here today. It's come from all the other services as well. But I notice in the written testimony, and as we've seen in all the other services, the talk of climate change. I'm curious, Secretary Roth, is there money allocated within this current year budget for climate change programs or anything that the Department of the Air Force or the Space Command have any purview over?
There is money in our budget. For example, we budgeted $68 million for essentially to improve our installation resilience, taking a look, for example, at power sources and water sources and see if there's some targeted investments we can make to improve our resilience in that area. We also have, as part of that $68 million, we'll look at where our cybersecurity vulnerabilities are on basis. And we'll also look to see where we can make some improvements in our emergency management procedures, and when something does happen, what are some improved procedures and processes we can put in place. So that's the only money I'm aware of that's explicitly targeted for sort of climate change installation resilience. I would also say, in terms of our operational requirements, operational resilience is very important to us as well, and particularly aircraft engines. In the total DoD enterprise, we, the Air Force, use about 2/3 of the fuels that's spent by the entire DoD enterprise, largely driven, obviously, by our airplanes. And so to the extent that we can invest in new technologies as we re-engine, for example, the B-52, or as we look to the next generation aircraft, if we can reduce the fuel consumption by some significant percentage, that'd be an enormous readiness improvement because it would reduce our logistics footprint as we try to do agile basing and moving people around as well. So we also have some targeted investments, actually predate some of this, to look in terms of can we reduce our fuel usage and reduce our logistics footprint as well.
All right, thank you. It's just a concern to me that our Commander-in-Chief says that the #1 threat to United States national security is climate change, and yet I'm not hearing that coming from the services. I'm just glad to know that even though the top line budget isn't what most of the services would like, that you're not specifically feeling the haircut on that with climate change initiatives. But thank you. I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin.